Welcome to The Dish Course, the podcast that has hot food takes,
cool food people,
and never a lukewarm moment.
If you're new here, we're a podcast where we dish and debate on the latest food trends and fads.
And as experts who work deeply within the food service industry for today's biggest global brands, nothing makes us more excited than really digging into what, how, and why people eat.
If you love impromptu conversations about today's food landscape, come on in and watch the plates fly.
I'm Chef Renee. I help direct an R&D culinary test kitchen, and I think the default should be sauce on the side. Don't drown my burger or burrito. I get to do that.
Super fair. I'm Cali, trends expert nutritionist, and if we're talking sauces, I personally avoid and am never excited by Caesar salad dressing.
That's a terrible.
Wrong. It's wrong.
And my name is Chef Cam. I manage a team of R&D chefs, and honestly, the worst sauce that you can put on a wing is actually buffalo sauce.
Even
so
more
you're coming
wrong.
at me
Even
for
more
Caesar
wrong.
salad dressing.
Wait till you hear my hot take.
Okay.
Speak to the people in Buffalo, New York about that one, Cam. See what they have to say. Okay, so today we are talking about everything sauce related, dressings, dips, all the things that make our food even more delicious. And we're going to start with Guess That Operator. So I'm going to share 2 news stories with you guys, and then we're going to guess that operator. So our first one is that just this week in Nation's Restaurant News, which is one of many food service publications that we follow, we have an article called Quick Service Restaurants Are Going All In on Sauces that described that this Dallas-based operator is selling a bottle of their ranch dressing, which is one of their most popular sauces, with a year's supply of refills on eBay and a promotion to celebrate National Ranch Day, which was on March 10th when the bid launched. 2 days in, the bid was already at $1,550 and had over 70 bidders. The bid ends on March 14th, which will have passed. So sorry if you're listening and wish that you could have bid on this. But people say that the sauce is legendary. They've had ranch fountains, and this ranch catered at people's weddings. And it's kind of following this big trend that we've seen of operators putting their sauces in retail for consumers to purchase at home. We know Popeyes just announced that they're doing that, and Chick-fil-A has. So who is that operator?
Why does it feel like $2,000 for is it lifetime or year? It's a year.
I think it's a year.
A year. That
Wow.
feels like a steal in this economy.
It does. Especially if you consume ranch that much.
Right. Especially
it's
we're
not
making
me.
ranch fountains. We know it's not Cali. Cali is like
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Ranch
Cali is,
hater.
like, driving up the price by bidding and not wanting to buy it. Okay. Let's
Do we
think
need a
about
hint?
Texas operators.
Yeah. I feel like it has to be chicken related. Like,
Yeah,
Chicken related.
wait, is it Wingstop?
it is.
Oh,
Dude,
yes.
yeah, dude. Oh my God.
Good.
That rant. Oh yeah. I've got my order down pat. It's like 10 piece of the barbecue, 10 piece of the parm garlic, and then the fries,
parm
and then
garlic.
the ranch.
So good. Maybe we're eating.
Does it
wings
actually
tonight.
hit different? Do you find that it's different?
And it's
Okay.
house made, you said, Callie?
It didn't articulate that in the
Okay,
article,
okay.
but apparently
Yeah.
people have catered Wingstop Ranch at their weddings specifically.
That's
So-
amazing. That's amazing.
That is great.
That's
Also,
so
nothing
Midwest.
consumers love more than something exclusive. So, let's bid on it on eBay, I guess.
It feels like very 2000s. It feels
Yeah.
very aughts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys remember the eBay stores that they used to have?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's giving that. It's giving.
I've seen a
giving
lot of
that,
eBay
you know.
commercials that are really trying to bring it back. Okay. But
Bring
next,
it back. Where did it go? I'm still buying stuff from eBay.
Yeah, but I don't think it's top of mind as much as it used to be. Especially I'm a thrifting girl, so love eBay.
Fair.
Okay, next, and this was from last month because it was Valentine's Day related, but I think this also speaks to the hype around sauces in maybe an extreme way. Just last month, this operator created a bath bomb that smells just like their iconic garlic dipping sauce. So if you've ever daydreamed about bathing in that garlic scented bliss, dream no longer. It was sent as a surprise to the chain's most loyal fans, and I laugh because the article called out that this isn't just a cute gimmick. This is serious garlic appreciation. The company is using this Valentine's Day to show love to its most passionate supporters, and clearly they've nailed the idea of showing affection in the weirdest yet most lovable way possible. So one, who's the operator? And two, while garlic is an interesting choice for a bath bomb, in my opinion, I'm curious what operator sauce you would want to bathe in.
Ooh, that's a great question. That's what we're here to talk about. What operator sauce do you want to bathe in?
So who's the operator with the garlic bath bomb?
I mean, it has to.
It's pizza. It has.
Yeah.
Who do you think?
It is pizza. It is Papa John's.
Yeah. How do I get at the top of that list? Like, how do I become a
are
Papa
you
John's
one of their most
influencer?
loyal fans?
I don't know. How do they define that? Is it through the reward? I guess the rewards program,
Okay, but really quick follow up. Like, what operator sauce would you be bathing in by choice?
Okay, I'm going to say I have a little bit of an answer to this.
Okay.
And I would probably say the, what is it? The cucumber tahini yogurt dressing from Sweet Green. Because I feel like it'd make my skin really soft. And
she's thinking of the spa with the green tahini.
Yeah, the cucumber, the sesame.
That's actually really.
I feel like the yogurt, I would come out
That's
looking
awesome.
like a glazed donut. The skin is supple.
It's glowing.
Even the scent is I'm not mad about it. I feel really good about this.
Oh my God.
What about you, Cam?
I mean, clearly anything ranch related, Wingstop, Jets Pizza has.
You want to bathe in ranch?
Yeah, why not? It's creamy.
Said,
it's
why
probably
not?
really cooling too.
Let me get a sunburn
Cool ranch.
and then get into this bathtub.
I mean, it is almost summertime. We're almost there. That's hilarious. I don't know.
Oh my God. What would you do, Cali?
Well, I like what you were saying about the cucumber tahini. I feel like that is I'm imagining probably something from Kava. I always get their lemon herb tahini dressing. That sounds right.
We're onto something about tahini in beauty products. I
think
think
Mediterranean, the minerals that I don't know.
Right.
Makes me think of the Dead Sea and the mud.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like that.
Anyway. Okay, so now we're going to start out with our bread service. So I'm just kind of going to set the scene and overview for the rest of our conversation before we dig in a little bit more to talk about sauces. So in a really similar way to the way that we were talking about cheeses, sauces are obviously very versatile. They span in flavor and consistency and functionality. But the variety has evolved to now meet different changing consumer needs and occasions. And it spans, sauces span all of our macro trends that we keep talking about, from nostalgia to global inspiration to indulgence. But for some light context, I thought it was just interesting to tell the story. Well, not to tell the story, but the story of how American cuisine has kind of evolved over time is really reflected through sauces. If we think about the 50s and the rise of TV dinners and American comfort food as we know it, and think of it diners and stuff, sauces and flavors have come such a far way. And now we're seeing sauce innovation from fine dining and really unique, innovative stuff all the way to QSRs, our fast food chains that we were talking about last time. And we're moving so far beyond our standard ketchup, mayo, mustard. So for operators, it's really easy for them to be elevating their menu items by just elevating with new sauce options. And so we're going to talk about these different need states and occasions that are kind of driving sauce innovation in food service. So as we move into our next chorus to talk about these trends, we're going to kick it off with culinary exploration. And I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So culinary exploration, kind of self-explanatory, but just the idea that sauces have really served as this gateway to bolder flavors, global flavors, because it allows consumers to try new flavors that maybe they aren't as familiar with in a much more approachable way. Mm-hmm. And with the rise of our global flavors that we keep talking about, we also see that consumers really want authentic cuisine, which I know we've kind of touched on a little bit before. But how do you think for operators they can balance that authentic and like authenticity on the menu with their creative interpretations of incorporating these flavors in a way that is going to be approachable for the consumer.
Renee, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I think like it's a delicate balance of, I think a lot of it also has to just do with like naming convention for a lot of things. So
Fair.
Like gochujang, for example, very popular ingredient, flavor in the menu mentioned just the category of jang flavored sauces as one of the top trends for this year. And people might not know what gochujang is. So for the operator and like the marketing teams, like it's really important to really provide that educational piece to be like, hey, we can call it something different. So it's maybe a little bit less scary, foreign to the consumer. So instead of calling it like gochujang, you can call it like a sweet and spicy.
Spicy.
Spicy. That's like another trend. But I think just making and just pairing it with something that is familiar. So like a gochujang barbecue sauce, you can call it like a Korean sweet chili barbecue sauce, where it's like, oh, okay, barbecue sauce I'm very familiar with. Not sure what Korean sweet chili, like what that could be, but I'm grounded in the fact that like I know what barbecue tastes like. I know I know this product is going to be sweet, but then it's also going to be spicy as well. Renee.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the nose, right? It's about making sure that there's that flavor in there that is kind of what is reaching out to someone, right? They're comfortable with that flavor. And so whatever that kind of unique and scarier ingredient is, it feels less not familiar, right? Like I'm more excited to taste it because it has barbecue and I know exactly what barbecue tastes like. What's really interesting is to see how that has evolved over time and that we're like reaching a place now where you can say gochujang and people know what you're talking about. I think the other side of that coin is like the age range that we're targeting, right? So Korean flavors are specifically really interesting to me because the influence of K-pop on Gen Z and Gen A and how that like intersection has taught more of, you know, these younger generations about these global flavors. And as we're targeting them as our core consumer who has the most amount of buying power, they want to see those kind of interesting call outs overall because it feels like super exclusive and kind of touches on that like social media trend, like, right? Because everything comes back to who is the new consumer that we're trying to engage. I think that one piece that I've seen that's been interesting is the transition from sesame to tahini. So I think that like a few years ago, we saw sesame everywhere. And then as there's been a rise in Middle Eastern Mediterranean food, we've seen kind of tahini become more and more relevant across the board. And I think that kind of harkens back to like what I said about what dressing I want to bathe in, which is sweet greens, cucumber, tahini, yogurt dressing, which like, you know, we know that tahini is still in its adoption phase, but because of those other words, it makes it more accessible. The other piece that I think is really interesting is what operators, the type of operator chooses to call it, right? So with Sweet Green specifically, because of their consumer base is going to be more accepting to tahini. And as Sweet Green expands their footprint into more middle America, like outside of like the four coasts of the country, roughly, we're seeing them do that education piece for us as well.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point. And like, it's interesting how there really is that educational piece. Like, I mean, I think as we talk about how sauces have really taken this center spotlight in a lot of different menu dishes, like across different categories on the menu also, like it's interesting to think about how a lot of menu names of items are led with the flavor of the sauce. And I mean, when you think about like what you guys are talking about in terms of naming, like I think it's interesting. Like I think of hot honey and like when I mean, obviously we've seen the rise of all of these spicy flavors. Spicy, I know I said before, like sweet and spicy, but I think that that's such a funny name. But when I think of like how we've seen hot honey grow, like hot honey has grown on menus by over like 150% in the last couple of years. We put it on everything now. Like, do you think that we might see the evolution of something like a hot honey to be like a gochujang honey, or like different 100%. Like specific flavored honeys that maybe right now they like need to stick with hot honey?
So I think it's gonna, I like what you're saying, but I think it's gonna be a difference in the sweetener. So I think you're gonna see like, I mean, we saw spicy maple a few years ago. It was during COVID, so it didn't really make the impact that I think it has the ability to. So like spicy maple, like habanero agave, I think you're more likely to see it shift in terms of the base sweetener, especially as folks become more familiar with different sweeteners, as again, like generations change and folks are more online and they're reading more into what it is that they're putting into their bodies. Like agave a few years ago would have not been something that is as known as it is now. And so I would see the sweetener change more than I would see the type of heat in the honey change, is what I think.
Well, and I think it could be both, because I think as we've seen so many spicy flavors taking over sauces and menus, like we are seeing the rise of this more nuanced spice. So like it's not just, oh, spicy this. It's like habanero that, jalapeno that, ghost pepper this, you know? So it'll be interesting to see how like the two kind of, I mean, there's so many different combinations that you can play with.
I'm just so happy that we're finally moving away. And I feel like I've talked to you guys about this, where it's like we're going away from like just novelty, like hot for being like just hot to just be hot.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable to eat. Like sauces are very, like that sauce would just be very one dimensional. It's like, okay, go like ghost pepper, like all of that. But I like that we're also pairing like a lot of these spices with fruit. I think like just inherently it's adding like that additional bit of sweetness, a little bit of a floral note that complements like kind of those floral notes that you would get from these peppers inherently. So like we talked about like mango habanero, pineapple, hatch chili, just like all of those fruit, like tropical fruit flavors work beautifully with these hot sauces, and it actually makes it a lot more enjoyable to eat. As someone that doesn't really handle spice too well, I'm like, oh, okay, I can get down with this.
Me either.
It's interesting to see consumers want that from a QSR too.
Yeah.
That expectation of quality has been raised significantly over time. And so it's like not enough to be spicy ranch. It has to be like some other like qualifier of what the ranch is. And I feel like previously you wouldn't have banked on like our like quick service, fast casual restaurants of the world doing that lift for folks. But as dining out becomes more and more expensive and people are looking towards chain restaurants to fulfill their dining out needs, kind of like that instant gratification thing that we talked about with Chef Brian last week or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. It's interesting to see folks like look at those chain restaurants for these kind of nuances. And what's even more exciting, in my opinion, is the response from the chain restaurants, that they're excited, willing, and like going to execute these kind of ideas, because 10 years ago that would have never, that was too, like honey mustard was like enough, you know,
like that was enough for your chicken tender. I feel like that's also a perfect segue to like this other need state that very much plays into all of this, which is customization. Like we know that consumers want to customize things as much as possible. I actually read, it was an article in the Seattle Times just this week that cited Technomic, which is one of our other big main leaders in terms of insights in this industry. But they said that 34% of consumers first look at what sauces are available on a menu when choosing a restaurant, which I honestly thought was a pretty crazy stat. But I mean, when you talk about QSR, like it makes me think immediately of Saucy, right? Like we've seen KFC launch this new concept that's like an offshoot of KFC that's focused entirely on sauces and like the ability to kind of have like flights of different sauces so that consumers can really customize their sauce experience with their chicken tenders, which is fun. So they have 11 different sauces and apparently over 4,000 different ways that you can combine them. But again, like we're seeing sauces that really span all of these different macro trends. So like some are more indulgent. They have different forms of ranch. They have a chimichurri ranch, which I feel like is up your alley, Cam.
Oh, heck yeah.
Jalapeno pesto ranch.
Ooh.
But then they also have like our spicy sweet. They have like a spicy mango chutney, which definitely has my name all over it. But yeah, it's fun. You can like pick and choose your different flavors.
I think it's interesting to see these brands lean on sauces. I think that like we know that when it comes to doing innovation, it's way easier to bring in a new sauce than it is to try to validate and make sure something is in the supply chain, especially right now when it comes to new innovation. And then it also like, I think that's another reason that we're seeing folks like KFC be able to put chutney on the menu too, like chimichurri, these words that are more interesting because it's still the same base product too. It's not like they've changed the coding system. You can get that sauce on the side. And dip in it. And then if you decide you don't like it, then you don't have to eat the rest of it. And so I think that's another reason that like these brands can have like super cool and innovative flavors and focus on just sauces, because I am like a heavy sauce person. I want my food to be saucy.
Extra.
But I don't want it to be soggy.
Yes.
And that is like why I'm a sauce on the side, dressing on the side person. You know?
It makes me think of the people who like put ketchup on their fries, like on top of their fries.
Oh yeah, that's odd. Yeah.
And I just have never understood that.
Has to be on the side. Did you know that the little paper cup, you can actually tear it apart and it actually becomes like a little tray? Did you know that?
What?
Yep. I'll show it to you later.
I feel like my life just changed.
Mine did too when I saw that. Again, I'll show you after. But going back to like, I think what's so cool about having all of those different sauces is just like the different ways that you can mix. You can just mix them together and create your own thing. Kind of harking back to the like customization piece. A project that I was working on recently, I saw as I was doing research, I found out that the Chick-fil-A subreddit, which exists, which is kind of crazy.
Love that.
A lot of consumers will actually take, and I'm looking at my notes right here, they'll take the sweet and spicy sriracha sauce that they have, which I've had before and it's really tasty. And they'll actually mix it with the other sauces that they have, whether that be like the Chick-fil-A sauce, the barbecue sauce, to just create something inherently different. And like you see just like the engagement of all of these people, like agreeing or disagreeing, and they're like, hey, have you tried this? And it almost kind of creates this little ecosystem community of like fans to make them go and like try out things. So like basically like little menu hacks. It's very similar to like, if you probably saw it on TikTok, people were going crazy over mixing Chipotle's queso and the vinaigrette that they have and dipping their burritos in it. I did that. I get it. It was delicious.
Well, and I feel like it's also just, I mean, like you're talking about, I mean, consumers are clearly, you know, getting quick service food or like fast casual food and maybe adding their own twist on it when they get home if they have different condiments in their pantries. And so it's interesting. I feel like people probably feel so seen and so like heard by these operators who are now giving them like on the menu opportunities to do the same thing that they would be doing anyway. And I know we've seen so many of those hacks like trending on TikTok.
I did see Dig Insights did a really interesting study with Gen Z, and it's 75% of Gen Z expect and want to customize something about their order when it comes to eating out.
That's a lot.
A lot. And so
like, not surprising, but that's high.
And that makes me think of like what I think is like one of the original like customizable condiments, which is from the Halal guys, the red site and the white sauce.
The white sauce.
Mixing them together and getting whatever it is. And then like harkening back to like this whole like culture class or culture clash, culture exploration with sauces, the fact that they just called them colors and like moved on with their lives. They're like, there's red sauce, there's white sauce. The red is spicy. The white is not as, it's creamy.
Yep.
Mix them together and do whatever you want. And then like that is your specific order and like hits that customization piece.
Well, it's also interesting. I mean, I'm just thinking about like personal experiences with friends who, like, I have certain friends who cannot go to any restaurant without changing something about the order that they're making on the menu. But it's interesting because I feel like notoriously people think that that's like, oh, like that's annoying of them to have to change everything on the menu. But now it's almost like welcomed in a different kind of way. So pivoting, when I think about it from that lens, I don't know how I feel about it. Because I'm always that person that's like, just order it the way that it comes. But like, I don't know. And also, I feel like we have to shout out like the Kraft Heinz remix machine that we saw at the National Restaurant Show in like 2023.
It was so
that
cool.
is kind of like the Coca-Cola freestyle meets sauces. So they have like four base sauces like mayo, barbecue, ranch, and ketchup, and then you can like add flavors to them, and like it'll just like mix your own sauce in front of you in this like tiny dispensed cup, which blew my mind when I saw it. I remember walking the show floor and just being like, take a video of me using this machine.
Yes. That line was long too.
It was long. It was probably like
that.
50 people long, you know?
But apparently they're now launching them like early this year. They're at BurgerFi, but they're also launching them at the University of Florida and also at the Jaguars Stadium in Jacksonville. So it's interesting because they're trying to test it out in these different types of operators. So there's like C&U and obviously stadiums and chain restaurants to see kind of how it's going to go. But I think that especially like, I don't know. I think any consumer would be excited to see that they can remix their own sauce like on site.
I'm curious to see what happens when the machine breaks and people turn to the back of house staff and say, "Where is my mango mayo ketchup?" And they're like, I can't do anything about that, you know?
Super fair.
Right.
God.
Super fair. But what other, like, I know one of the other kind of need states that we talk about is like the rise of everything premium or also just indulgent in different ways. So like, how have you guys seen that perform in terms of sauces on the menu?
I think like one of the ones that jumps out at me because like I really enjoy this and I consume it personally is I know that some people might not like truffle. I actually don't
love
mind
truffle.
Because like so you
I'm a
either
truffle
like
hater.
it or you hate it. Yeah, exactly.
You're a truffle hater?
Look, I'm a truffle hater because every single restaurant
Renee,
in the
I thought
city
we were
of Chicago
friends.
in 2015 served their french fries with truffle aioli.
And they're
made with
delicious every time.
garbage truffle extract. And like the restaurant I was working at the time, everything smelled like truffle. When I was teaching at Sur La Table, everybody just wanted like truffle oil, and I'm a fan of real truffle. I'm gonna be bougie. I'm a fan of real truffle.
Speaking of premium,
you know,
there we go.
Truffle extract, truffle oil. That is not for me personally.
I will say, like the operator that, in like my opinion, that actually does it well is Shake Shack.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Shake Shack. Anytime I'm in New York, I'm getting Shake Shack.
Oh, yeah.
It just hits different there.
It does.
But yeah, anytime that they do like the flavor platform like LTO, it extends on their burgers and it also goes onto their fries. And what I like is that you can actually see like the specs of like the black truffle that they use.
Makes it more
and
premium.
So, like, yeah, it makes it more premium. And I think that's like another like call out is that when there is like actual particulate in sauces that just screams premium. It's like, oh, they are actually using the ingredient versus a like something artificial or what have you.
Well, I think that's also aligned with just kind of trends we see in terms of health and wellness. Like consumers want whole ingredients. So when it's visible to the eye, like it gives off that premium idea.
One thing that I think is interesting about like this call out with particulates and sauces being premium is the rise of chard as I think that we saw roasted really like as an uptick, right? So it wasn't enough to be garlic aioli. It was roasted garlic aioli. And now it's charred jalapeno, garlic
and like
aioli.
black garlic.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I think that like upfront word changing that like adverb
Adjective.
that adjective.
Yeah.
An adverb.
An adverb describes a verb.
Okay. Not me with
Grammar 101.
the
English
grammar
class.
language. I was like, it's a verb because it's something you're doing. That like using it at anyway, Flavor in the Menu, which puts out a trend report every year, did a really interesting article about like chard being the new thing and that charred pepper piece specifically being excited. And I think chard is a really easy particulate to put into different food, right? You know, if you see that little speck in there of something like black and the sauce is green, you're like, okay, cool. I know that there were actual charred poblanos in this.
Yeah.
I feel like it is worth circling back to your truffle comment, just in the, not about the truffle, because I disagree with that and we can just leave it at that. But when you talk about aioli and we talk about premium, like we have to call out the fact that the rebranding of mayo to be aioli was like one of the best rebrands to be premium, like in food in a long time. And I just laugh about that constantly because I mean, it really is true. And it kind of brings us full circle to like the beginning of this conversation. But the way that operators are menuing things, whether it's dumbing it down to be more approachable or kind of just like adding that adjective to make it sound fancier than it is. Like even adding words like fresh. I mean, that's such a basic example, but it really, I think almost, I mean, on a subconscious level to the consumer, because I don't think consumers are like, oh, it's fresh, that's why I'm going to order it. But they just like naturally tend towards those things.
And it's interesting to think about that in terms of like FDA defined terms, right? So there is a standard of identity in a lot of different items on menus. So like milkshakes have a standard of identity. Ice cream has a standard of identity. Cold brew has a standard of identity set by the FDA that says this is why you can call it this thing. Those adjectives don't. So fresh cilantro aioli could be, oh, there's actual fresh cilantro in there. It could be, oh, they made this aioli fresh. Or it could be they put not dried cilantro in it when they produced it at the manufacturing facility.
Yeah. No, and that makes me think about the term natural.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
We can go down a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a separate
that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Should we get to your hot take, Cam?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Much anticipated.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've already talked about my love for ranch, and Cali, I know that you're gonna like this. I think this is payback for you being a cheese stick biter, actually.
I'm still hearing about it. It's okay. You're not the only one.
I'm good. I'm glad to know that you are getting it from both your personal life and your professional life.
Yeah, agreed.
I love that.
Oh,
I've had people reach out to me and be like, Callie is a cheesesteak biter? Unsubscribe.
Yeah.
But okay, so my hot take, and we'll say opinion, but like I believe that people that like just that don't like ranch are really just overreacting because they've never actually had a good ranch or its even better derivative, Green Goddess. Like if you've never had Green Goddess dressing before, it's basically ranch with more complex herbs in it. It's so good. And like you can't argue that ranch is inherently one of the most versatile sauces that you can have on the menu. Specifically when you called out like the chimichurri ranch, I think that's like a great example of like you taking something that is like internationally inspired.
Like, look at Callie renegotiating her thoughts already.
I'm not. I'm building armor right now to fight back.
Because like, here's the thing: is that like you can like ranch works very well on deep fried foods. It works great on pizza. It works great as a base for pizza. Like that is actually
like instead of tomato sauce,
like next gen white pizzas, a white pie.
As a white pie lover, that feels offensive.
No,
why?
Yeah, why?
Because I hate ranch.
Oh, well.
Okay, as a ranch hater, that feels offensive, not as a white pie lover.
Well, both.
But see, here's the like when I do like ranch on a pizza, it's got to one, it has to be a pan style pizza, number one. Two, it has to be a light coating of ranch. It can't just be like normal amount. Because like then it gets like a little too oily. As clearly you can tell I've perfected this.
You don't think tavern style pizza?
Oh, I love tavern
that
style
actually
pizza.
works
Like a base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm so hungry.
Like deep dish, not for me, but Chicago really did well with the tavern style for sure.
We did go out to dinner that one time.
Yeah, we did.
That's true. We did take. Yeah,
where did we go?
We went to Dicey's, which is part of the Parsons family.
Yeah,
their
pizza was
chicken
really
chain.
good.
Funny.
Wait, sorry. Wait. Talk to me really quickly. Remind me because I'm a ranch hater, I don't pay attention to ranch. We just block it out of the line of sight. What are the specific seasonings in ranch?
So depending on how you make it, like you can either use like sour cream and or mayo as the base. And then there's just inherently a bunch of different herbs and
like
spices.
What?
So you'll have like parsley in there, you'll have chive, definitely garlic in there, a little bit of black pepper. And if you want to get fancy, you can add buttermilk to it. So these are all just like ingredients that
dill.
And dill.
Dill is in my mind, dill is the star.
So that was my thought, which reminds me that dill and parsley
You don't
are
like
things
parsley?
that I don't like.
What?
Yeah.
I'm finding so much about
I
you
know.
right now.
I know. I'm upset.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I just feel like you're potentially an herb hater.
Yeah.
No, I'm not an herb hater.
I don't know.
And
You
also,
just named 2 herbs that you hate. I think that qualifies.
Okay. Well, I love cilantro, and I
wow.
apologize to all the people who have the weird gene that makes it taste like soap because it is delicious, and I want to put it on everything. So I'm not an herb hater, and I like mint, right?
Okay.
But parsley just doesn't do it for me, and dill does not do it for me. So
Interesting.
that's why I don't like ranch. It's not that I don't like the creaminess of it. Like, I love a creamy sauce. I like
So
mayo.
do you like Green Goddess then?
Yeah.
Oh.
I still think, Kim, you're onto something with the hot take of people who don't like ranch haven't had a good ranch, because like some bottled ranch is really, really good. But I'm thinking about like the first ranch that I really ate as like growing up was probably like from a cafeteria.
Wait, so Cam, what do you qualify as a good ranch?
I mean, for me, it's definitely like mayo base and sour cream. Like, it has to have both. I like having both because like you get the richness of mayo and you get the tanginess from the sour cream.
What about Greek yogurt?
Greek yogurt, depending on the fat percentage, I've found sometimes it can be too tangy, and I don't like that.
Okay.
So are you making your own ranch frequently?
I mean, I'm going to make my own ranch. I'll even make a Green Goddess.
Absolutely.
Too, because my introduction to Green Goddess, like that just made my love for ranch like even just
it opened doors. Like I could like picture like like he eats the Green Goddess and all of a sudden like all you see is a blinding white light and it's like
yeah, it was like it was mind-blowing to me because like then I went down a rabbit hole of like what else can I dip into this. So I think like for me it's just like just making just a solid ranch. As as boring as it is, there's nothing like I think we talk about like premiumization and all of that. I think that there also is just like a case for simple foods made very well.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with that. I think ranch is one of the easiest condiments to make at home. And I think that that's a big differentiator. I asked about Greek yogurt because we always have Greek yogurt in the house.
Same.
And then I am partial to the seasonings at Trader Joe's that are like fancy seasonings.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's actually funny that you say that. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go for it.
I will use the ranch seasoning from
On
Trader
popcorn?
Joe's on popcorn.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you do like dill. It's just about
It's
not.
probably just the amount. I think what
I
it
think
is.
maybe it's a fresh dill thing for you too,
Maybe.
because you ate a lot of fresh dill growing up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it kind of gets stuck in your teeth.
Yeah.
and I can see how it can be like overly fragrant. I can see how you would end up there. I do think one of the critical ingredients to a good ranch is dried herbs. I think that often you see people hate on dried herbs, but like I'm not using fresh oregano to make my pasta sauce. So I'm not always using that kind of like fresh dill to make my ranch. So that takes me back to this Trader Joe's seasoning or like any kind of ranch seasoning that's out on the market and taking it and mixing it into Greek yogurt with water. And that's like enough of a ranch to have a premium ranch experience without having to like keep a bottle of ranch in the pantry all the time that I'm not going to use up immediately.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I also do like, listen, I'm open to it. And if this is your hot take, Cam, like I am happy to be swayed. I think part of it is really like I did not grow up in a house that had ranch.
I
Like,
mean, I didn't either.
yeah. So like I was not really around ranch, using ranch, dipping it in any, like using it for anything until much later in life, at which point I already had an aversion to dill. And I was like, nah, I don't need that in my life. I'd rather dip in like honey mustard or something else.
Do you think that the use of ranch, like 10 years ago, like I feel like 10, 15 years ago is when we really started to see like ranch totally explode and be like this exciting condiment. Do you think that opened doors to have more exciting dipping sauces? Like if had we not turned into ranch freaks about pizza, do you think that like did ranch walk so that hot honey could run?
I love that. I definitely think that is the case. I mean, I feel like ranch, as much as it can be polarizing, I think that it is a standout staple condiment for a lot of consumers. And so that idea of pairing it with the chimichurri or the whatever other new flavor was that easy access point for them to try those new flavors and be exposed to them, because they were like, well, I do love ranch, so a plussed up ranch can't be bad.
I think my to-do is just, I think we got to make like a ranch flight.
Right.
Just different sauces.
I think that's what time to head to the recipe lab.
Yeah,
let's do it.
All right, so let's do it. So we're thinking a ranch flight. We already saw Au Jus Ranch. If you haven't watched the follow-up video from our first episode, Chef Cam made some really cute little beef Wellingtons, which with an au jus dipping sauce. Go check the video out on LinkedIn or on our Instagram if you haven't watched it yet. So I think we've covered that. What other kind of umami ranch would you make as kind of our first, like, we'll make a classic ranch, right? Yeah. That'll be like the one that hits home, the one that will change Callie's mind, the one that will change the ranch haters' mind.
We need a baseline.
Yes.
From that, we need an umami ranch, we need a spicy ranch, and then I think we need a sweet
ranch.
Ooh.
What do you, so starting with umami, what do you think?
I'm thinking like definitely thinking like roasty toasty kind of vibes. I know that I would love to have roasted garlic in there somewhere. Okay. I want that. Part of me wants it to kind of steer towards like come to think of it, I would love to play around and make it a little bit more skew Asian.
Ooh.
I would love to play around with like this is gonna sound crazy, but kind of going back to the jang trend. There is a fermented black bean paste that is used in Korean cuisine for a dish called jjajangmyeon. It's a Korean noodle dish. It has like pork and all of that, and this fermented black bean sauce, and it uses this paste, and it's like salty. It is like a umami bomb.
Whoa.
So I would love to see that.
Umami bath bomb.
Yeah, umami bath bomb. Sorry. And I think that would be so cool on like on a Korean style like fried chicken wing as like a dipping sauce. Like that would be super cool to kind of make it full circle. So I'm gonna say that for the umami ranch.
Okay.
I think that'd be sick.
Okay.
Okay.
And then what was the next one again? We said umami. We need what else?
Spicy
and sweet. I have a sweet idea.
Yeah, I want to hear the sweet one.
Okay.
Because maybe it'll help me
Yeah.
in my journey to like ranch, if that's possible.
Yeah.
I have always loved chutney. Like half of my family comes from South Africa, and like chutney was definitely a staple sauce and condiment in my house growing up. And it really has that like vinegary but like really sweet profile. And there's actually this South African sauce that I did want to shout out right now because I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called monkey gland sauce.
What?
Yeah. And it's like on menus across South Africa, but it combines like a tomato sauce and a chutney with like vinegar and other flavors. So it kind of looks like a barbecue sauce, and it's typically eaten on burgers. But like on a lot of South African menus, you'll see monkey gland burgers. And it's just, I think it would be so cool if one day it made it to the States, because people would obviously be so confused. I mean, there would be that education.
It would just be South African burger sauce.
No, I know, but like, it would be so much better if there was that, if we were able to educate consumers about that. But chutney ranch, I think you should make it happen.
Chutney ranch. Okay, so
we could lean like
flavors of like tamarind.
I was gonna say, what if we played in the like maybe like Indian cuisine? Like there's inherently a lot of chutneys. I think of like all the different sauces that you can get with any of like the appetizers that you could potentially get. Like I'm thinking of you mentioned tamarind, Renee. I think that'd be super cool. Like a tamarind ranch. Just playing around with that flavor profile.
Well, and that would be perfect, because I did see that tandoori was the fastest growing flavor in chicken wings this year.
Oh, wow.
Which was surprising.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
You could make like a tandoori chicken wing with a tamarind ranch dipping
tamarind
sauce.
Mango type of. Okay. Let's play around with that.
Okay, so that sounds exciting to me. I want to try that.
Yeah.
We're getting somewhere.
Spicy.
What do we know? Like, what's cool in spicy right now? I feel like we've seen so many different versions of spice, right? Like, habanero ranch has been done. Jalapeno ranch has been done. I feel like even like peri peri ranch has been done. So what are some other kind of like what are other peppers that we could bring in that would feel exciting? Or is it like thinking about a food that is spicy and bringing that in?
I think if we're going to do hot, I think it, like you were kind of touching on it, where it has to also just be like inherently like interesting. And I would love to see, like, I don't know why like lemongrass is popping into my mind.
Ooh, what about like bird's eye chili lemongrass ranch?
Yeah.
So we kind of change the herbaceous note a little bit, bring in a pepper that is kind of almost known, right? Because if I just said Thai chili, people would immediately, I think, picture that bird's eye chili.
Yeah.
But you and I both know what that spice level is like overall, and that it's one of the most spiciest. I've like the smaller and meaner they look, the smaller and meaner that they are when it comes to peppers. When I was working in agriculture, I sold Scotch bonnets and ghost peppers, and I would sell them by like the pint, and I always had a rule that like you could have the pint for free if you ate one of them in front of me, because you're standing outside for 6 hours, like you need some entertainment. And you would not believe how many people would take the peppers, do a lap at the farmer's market, and come back and be like, why would you let me do that?
That's so good. Yeah, I've never been one to be like, let me challenge myself and eat something super spicy. But
we had bravest kid in the world competitions growing up.
Oh my God.
Where we would my siblings and I would eat spoonfuls of hot sauce, and it would be like, who can do it? Who can't do it? How many can you take? And this is why I am the way that I am.
Yeah, it's all coming together.
Okay, so Thai, bird's eye, lemongrass.
And just like other just Asian ingredients. Like, I'd love to see ginger, garlic, just all
love
of
ginger.
that. We'll throw in cilantro just for you, Cali, because you like
Cute.
it. And I just thought of this in the way that we serve it. I would love to serve this as like a charcuterie board.
Yes.
Of like just
Yes.
all the different sauces.
Do it.
OG ranch. I'm gonna throw.
Well, now
in
I have to
green
like hop
goddess
on a
there.
flight and come to Chicago to make this
And
board
then
for you.
We're gonna have like wings. We'll have tendies. We'll have nugs.
Yeah.
just all just on a board.
I want like pieces of pizza on there. I want like
Yes.
carrot sticks
Yeah.
and celery. I
can
want
build
like
All the
out.
ranch dipping items.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
I
Okay,
love it.
I'm on
It
board.
sounds so good.
You've
Yeah.
convinced me.
Okay, so from the top, Cam, go over what our 3 ranches are again.
Ooh, okay. So yeah, we are going to do a black bean ranch inspired by the Korean dish jjajangmyeon. We are going to
Love
do a
it.
chutney inspired ranch. So we were thinking kind of a little bit more Indian flavors. And then the
Yum.
last one is going to be leaning Asian again, where we're going to have, it's going to be spicy. We're going to have lemongrass, some herbaceous goodness. Obviously, we're going to serve it. We're also going to have OG ranch as well as green goddess. I have to have both of them.
Yeah.
And we're going to serve that all on a charcuterie board with literally everything that you would dip ranch into: wings, pizza,
Yum.
just
I'm
anything
about
that you can
it.
think of.
Yum.
I'm
This is
about
going to
it.
be a great staff meal Thursday.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Okay, Cam, that sounds awesome. It sounds like we have our recipe. So that's it for today. If you're liking the show, please take a second and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, we love comments, so drop them down below. And if you're listening on the podcast app of your choice, leave us a rating and review. We are hungry for feedback. Stay tuned for our next episode that drops in 2 weeks. And until next time, no matter what the trends are, keep it delicious.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
I also was going to say, but like it just wasn't as related, Cam, that when you said that people who don't like ranch are just being over dramatic. Well, I feel like if you're going to hate something that is popularly beloved, you have to be dramatic. And
Yeah.
yes, I am.